Truck drivers have joined students, teachers, and other educational workers on a national strike. Former President of Bolivia, Evo Morales, has condemned the decision to ban him from standing as a senator in the upcoming general elections. Millions of Iranians have voted in parliamentary elections. Hi, from the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba. This is From the South. I'm Cristina Escobar. Truck drivers are joining students, teachers, and other educational workers on a national strike this Friday. On the second day of the industrial action, the marches will extend outside of the authorized zone. The drivers are protesting against the traffic restrictions recently imposed by the Colombian government in Bogota, which mean that only trucks that have been in use for less than 20 years can circulate. While the measures have an environmental protection objectives, they also threaten truckers' livelihood. On the other hand, the Colombian Federation of Education Workers, FECODE, and Bogota's District Association of Educators are demanding employment guarantees and an end to threats and assassinations of teachers. And the widespread violence in Colombia continues, this time in the town of Segovia, Antioquia department, where a new fatality was reported. On Friday morning, Yuri Ortiz Moreno, a 17-year-old youth leader, was found dead. The victim joins the long list of social leaders assassinated in Colombia. The authorities have not offered any details, but the murder occurred 2 days before a peace march convened for this Sunday, February 23rd, to demonstrate against these violent acts. The former President of Bolivia, Evo Morales, has condemned the decision by the Bolivian electoral authorities to ban him from standing for a seat in the Senate. In a press conference from Buenos Aires, alongside his attorneys, Morales considered the move an attack on Bolivian democracy.
That last year, on October 20th, we won the first round of elections. The real fraud was the OAS report, and all of the organizations, universities, just show that there was no fraud in Bolivia. They just took my triumph away. We won. We won the elections.
Me obliga a no ser candidato en estas elecciones. Yo acepté.
I was compelled to participate in these elections, and I did, and I accepted. They approved an inconstitutional and illegal law that wouldn't allow me to be a president. But I accept to be a candidate for Bolivia. But now I am not able to be a candidate for the Senate. They don't respect any sentence, not even the constitutional law. This is a judicial mistake. This is an attempt against democracy. Or are they afraid of democracy at the end?
Although the masked candidate for president, Luis Arce, was not banned from participating in the elections, other leaders of the movement towards socialism have expressed concern about the influence exerted on the electoral court by the right-wing candidates Luis Fernando Camacho, Carlos Mesa, and Yanin Áñez, who appointed Salvador Romero, the head of the electoral board.
With this decision, some members of the Supreme Electoral Court are threatening the possibility of having clean and transparent elections. With this decision, unfortunately, the Supreme Electoral Court serves the dictatorship and the United States policy.
A hooded group surrounded and took control of a police vehicle in the northern state of Ceará on Thursday in Brazil. According to Telesur correspondent there, Nacho Lemus, among the demonstrators was a city councillor from President Jair Bolsonaro's party. This man involved in the conflict in which Senator Cid Gomes was shot a few days ago. The events happened near the 18th Military Police Battalion, occupied by officers who have been on a strike since last Tuesday, 18th. The civil police have deployed more officers to the streets to guarantee the security of the city run by the Workers' Party, the main opposition to Bolsonaro's government. According to the local newspaper O Povo, the vehicle was later recovered from the rioters and sent to the 10th Police District. More stories coming up, including the ongoing protests in the Dominican Republic. Don't go away. Welcome back. In the Dominican Republic, thousands of protesters continue to rally outside the Central Electoral Board to reject the suspension of municipal elections on Sunday. Our correspondent Daisy Toussaint brings us more on the protest in Santo Domingo.
In the Dominican Republic, the Electoral Board just announced the suspension of its IT Director, Miguel Ángel García. It also informed that the IT Directorate will now be under the joint supervision of 4 deputy directors. Julio César Castaños, president of the Central Electoral Board, also said that this was a prudent decision to ensure that an independent investigation is conducted. He pointed out that the decision was collectively taken by the board without the interference of any political party. He went on to say that the international investigation on the election sabotage will start next week. Finally, he urged all political parties calling for a major rally on Sunday to ensure the physical safety of the electoral board facilities which house the country's civil registry.
And continuing with the issue of the elections in the Dominican Republic, the Superior Electoral Court declared the complaint submitted against the Electoral Board inadmissible for a lack of legal grounds. Judge Roman Jaques, president of the court, on reading out the ruling, assured that it was unanimously approved. The court accepted the arguments of the defense of the Electoral Board after assuring that the demands of the plaintiffs were satisfied with the board's announcement of extraordinary elections to be held on March 15th using only paper ballots. The French National Assembly has concluded the first week of debates on the controversial pension reform bill that has fueled months of ongoing strikes throughout France. The debate regarding the bill started on Monday in the French capital. The majority of the unions are opposed to President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform, which would eliminate the current 42 pension schemes to replace them with a single points-based system. Protesters claim the plans will force them to work even longer for a lower pension. Polls continue to show a majority of the French public that is in favor of the strikes and critical of the government's approach to the pension system. Portugal's parliament has voted to legalize euthanasia and assisted suicide for the terminally ill. 5 bills on the issue received majority support from lawmakers, and a special committee will now combine them into a single bill. The move in Portugal was proposed by the ruling Socialist Party along with its left-wing allies, but could still be blocked by the country's conservative president Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. The Catholic Church and opposition parties are opposed to euthanasia and are calling for Portugal to hold a referendum on the issue. Strict conditions were established for the euthanasia and assisted suicide, requests for which would only be granted if the patient is terminally ill and suffering unbearable pain. We stay in Europe because German Interior Minister Horst Seehofer described the recent mass shooting in the town of Hanau as a far-wing extremist attack. Seehofer said during a press conference in Berlin that the shooting was a clearly racially motivated terror attack and added that this is the third such attack in recent months. The minister also pledged a larger police presence, particularly at vulnerable sites such as mosques, following the attack that targeted shisha bars frequented by mainly Turkish and Kurdish residents. 9 people were killed in the attack, and the 43-year-old gunman was later found dead at his home alongside his mother. The COVID-19 death toll in China increased this Thursday by 118 for a total of 2,336. This brings the overall global death toll to 2,250. A further 889 new cases were also confirmed in China on Thursday, of which 411 were located in the central province of Hubei. The overall total of confirmed cases in China since the outbreak began is now 75,465. Meanwhile, further deaths were reported beyond mainland China, with 3 in Japan, 2 in Hong Kong, 2 in Iran, 4 in South Korea, and 1 each in Taiwan, France, and the Philippines. A total of 2,109 patients have recovered from the virus. For the second day running this Thursday, the number of recovered patients surpassed that of new cases in China. Meanwhile, the coronavirus has also emerged in a Chinese prison in the east of the country. The provincial government of Shandong confirmed that 207 people, including 200 prisoners and 7 prison officers, had tested positive for COVID-19 in the prison in the city of Jining. The deputy director of the National Health Commission informed work is ongoing to develop effective vaccines against the coronavirus. And South Korea reported 100 new confirmed cases of the coronavirus on Friday, taking the national total to 204, the majority of which located in Daegu, the country's 4th largest city. Most of the new cases have been traced back to a 61-year-old woman who had taken part in services at a Daegu church, according to authorities. Local residents and shopkeepers said the church held crowded services several times a week. Authorities fear the large gatherings played a part in the spread of the virus. Health officials informed more than 500 people in the city were showing symptoms of the virus as of Friday, and tests were ongoing. Meanwhile, the Islamic Republic of Iran reported 3 new deaths and at least 13 cases of the COVID-19 virus. A spokesperson for the Iranian Ministry of Health confirmed the death of 3 people in the city of Qom, about 230 kilometers southwest of the capital of Tehran. The total death toll in the country now stands at 5. Patients who tested positive have been quarantined in the city of Bobol. Meanwhile, President Hassan Rouhani ordered the creation of a special team and a center to combat and prevent the spread of the coronavirus, where the new cases will be treated. Government spokesperson Ali Rabiei called on the population to follow the recommendations published by the Ministry of Health to reduce the risk of infection. We're taking one last break, but stay with us. Hi, welcome back. Polls opened in Iran at 8 a.m. local time to elect the new representatives to the nation's parliament this Friday. Almost 58 million people are eligible to vote for Iran's 11th Islamic Consultative Assembly. Iranians will vote for 290 lawmakers from among almost 7,000 candidates. In a press conference right after voting, President Hassan Rouhani stressed that the Iranian people will disappoint their enemies through their massive participation in this parliamentary election. Meanwhile, the leader of the Islamic Revolution of Iran, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, voted in a polling station in Tehran on Friday. After doing that, Khamenei highlighted that this election secures national interest and made a call to Iranians to participate and demonstrate the people's unity in the face of Iran's enemies. And we stay in Iran because the president of this country, Hassan Rouhani, exercised his vote in this Friday's parliamentary election and referred to the democratic path his country has followed.
I wish to recall the first parliamentary elections in 1979. 40 years have gone by since parliamentary elections is now underway despite many difficulties we have faced in the last 40 years. The fact that every election has taken place on time is one of our country's major achievements.
On Friday, Turkey deployed more military vehicles and equipment to be sent to neighboring Syria's Idlib province. Footage from the private IHI news agency showed a truck convoy transporting army tanks and equipment through the town of Hatay on its way to Turkey's southern border. The deployment comes after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan threatened to increase military involvement in Syria after Ankara reported that an airstrike killed 2 Turkish soldiers on Thursday. Turkey has sent thousands of additional troops and armored vehicles to Syria in recent weeks, vowing to halt advances by the Syrian army. At least 15 Turkish soldiers have been killed in Syria this month amid an offensive by President Bashar al-Assad's forces aimed at recapturing the remaining terrorist-held areas in the region. Libya's eastern military commander Khalifa Haftar said he would be ready for a ceasefire if Turkish and Syrian mercenaries left the country. Haftar stressed during an interview with Russia's RIA news agency that a ceasefire would be the result of a number of conditions being fulfilled, among them the withdrawal of Syrian and Turkish mercenaries, an end to Turkish arms supplies to Tripoli, and the elimination of terrorist groups in Tripoli. The internationally recognized government of Libya on Tuesday suspended talks hosted by the United Nations to hold the conflict in Tripoli after Eastern forces attacked the capital's port, killing 3 people and almost hitting a highly explosive gas tanker. Meanwhile, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan confirmed for the first time on Friday that pro-Turkish Syrian fighters were present in Libya alongside Ankara's training personnel.
Great losses in their air power. Their eastern rivals, the LNA forces, have destroyed an aircraft workshop.
Zimbabwe has announced a legislative reform that will see farms on its most arable land restricted to 250 hectares per farm, a move that will see several farms reduced in size. According to the government, the rationale behind the move is to provide more people with access to land and to improve productivity. The country has been undergoing a controversial land reform program since the year 2000. Many farms lie idle or are underused, while the country faces food insecurity, crippling drought, and energy shortages. The southern African country imports the bulk of its food, including staples such as corn, wheat, and soya beans. While some analysts say the move to cut farm size is aimed at improving output, others are skeptical, saying that without restoring land rights, farmers will find it hard to invest. We continue in Africa because more than 4,000 people are being forced to flee their homes every day in Burkina Faso as attacks on civilians by jihadist militants increase in number and frequency, the UN's refugee agency said on Friday. People fleeing the violence report attacks on their villages by militant groups. Terrified of these attacks, residents have left everything behind to find safety, according to the agency's spokesperson Bebar Balog. So far, 76 6,000 people had been displaced according to UN estimates. Burkina Faso is an impoverished and politically fragile country in the west of Africa, which, like neighboring Mali and Niger, suffers frequent attacks by jihadist groups. And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And please join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Cristina Escobar. Thank you for watching.